The evening air carried a gentle breeze that swept through the bustling streets, whispering secrets of the city to those who cared to listen. Inside the warmly lit lounge, the soft hum of conversation mixed with the gentle clinking of glasses. It was the kind of place where stories began, where paths crossed in the most unexpected ways. Behind the bar, Alf was a fountain of knowledge, always ready with a helpful word or a bit of friendly guidance. He knew the regulars, he knew the visitors, and he knew how to read the room with an expert eye. When asked about the young woman sitting in the corner booth, Alf smiled warmly. He explained that her name was Luella, a dedicated employee who worked diligently in one of the mail rooms upstairs. She was a familiar, pleasant face in the neighborhood, someone who brought a sense of steady routine to the bustling environment. The lounge was alive with energy, and soon another young woman caught the attention of the patrons. She was a model, elegant and poised, who handled lingerie lines for a major pharmaceutical house. She often dropped by on Fridays, bringing a touch of grace to the end of the workweek. Alf confirmed her routine with a nod, his clever hands deftly preparing drinks as he kept the atmosphere light and welcoming. A gentleman named Jack sat at the counter, a charm in his smile that seemed almost practiced, yet entirely engaging. He ordered a refill of scotch and water, making it a match set as he struck up a conversation with a woman named Anne Hobson, and was an administrative assistant at Norlam Pharmaceuticals, an intelligent and independent woman who possessed a quiet confidence. Jack was attentive, his words smooth as he tried to learn more about her and the company she worked for. He claimed to be looking for a new job, suggesting that working at her company would mean being wonderfully close to her. And, though charmed, maintained a sensible curiosity about his sudden interest. Meanwhile, a different kind of reunion was taking place in the quiet hallway just outside. A woman named Laura had found Frank, a man she had waited to see for 6 long weeks. Her heart was heavy with confusion and affection. She had worried immensely after he told her to stay in San Diego, feeling lost during the time they were apart. Frank looked startled, his eyes darting toward a man with a cigar across the hallway, sensing that they were being observed. Laura looked at Frank, her eyes searching his face for the truth. She spoke of her love for him, of the promises of marriage they had shared, and the deep anxiety that had clouded her days. She confessed how she had tried to help him, driven by stories of debts and danger. Frank, despite his flaws, assured her of his feelings, claiming he only wanted to protect her from the complications of his life. He suggested a plan to lead any onlookers away, asking her to wait 10 minutes before following him to her place. Laura, bound by her deep affection, insisted on staying by his side, unwilling to let him face his troubles alone. The scene shifted back to the warmth of the restaurant, where Jack and Anne were enjoying their evening. Jack praised the quiet atmosphere and recommended the scampi, creating an environment filled with light-hearted romance. He listened intently as Anne shared snippets of her life, her dedication to her work, and her positive outlook on the future. In another part of the city, the esteemed investigator Barnaby Jones was beginning to untangle a complex web of events. He sat down with Miss Andrews, a strong and resilient woman who was grieving the loss of her sister, Laura. Miss Andrews was filled with a mix of sorrow and regret, unable to accept the sudden tragedy that had taken her sister away. She recalled how Laura had left her job and traveled to San Diego, captivated by a man named Frank whom she had met in a neighborhood lounge. Barnaby, with his calm demeanor and silver hair, listened with deep empathy. He understood the weight of grief and the need for closure. Miss Andrews blamed herself for being harsh with Laura when she returned home, and she desperately needed to find the truth to find peace of mind. Barnaby promised to look into the matter, offering his expertise not as a rigid enforcer, but as a seeker of clarity and truth. The investigation led Barnaby to the pharmaceutical company where Laura had previously been employed. There he met Mr. Inbal and Irving, who were still sorting through the aftermath of a robbery that had occurred 6 weeks prior. They remembered Laura as a thoroughly trustworthy and happy employee, someone who was like a right hand to the business. Mr. Inbal recalled Frank Miller as a pleasant-looking salesman with light hair and a small scar on his chin, who used to pick Laura up after work. The clues were beginning to align, pointing toward neighborhood gathering places where single people met. As the days unfolded, connections became clearer. A woman named Sheila Wiles, an old acquaintance, spotted Frank near the marina. She recognized him instantly, though he was now going by the name Jack Arno. Sheila was lively and outspoken, accompanied by her roommate Connie Maxwell. When Sheila playfully confronted him about his past descriptions of his life, Jack quickly introduced and as his wife to defuse the situation, creating a comical misunderstanding that left Sheila amused and skeptical. Barnaby Jones continued his search, visiting the local establishments to gather information. He spoke with patrons and staff, learning that Frank was known as a different breed of salesman, someone who was drawn to intelligent women with good jobs. During his search, Barnaby encountered Sheila, who was intrigued by the presence of a private investigator. With a touch of humor, she offered to help him if she ran into Frank again, handing him a lead before departing into the evening. Tragedy struck unexpectedly when a body was discovered near the docks, identified as Sheila Wiles. The local authorities, including the lieutenant, noted a mark on her head, suggesting an accidental fall into the dark water. Barnaby arrived at the scene, his sharp eyes noticing a peculiar fiber on her clothing. He took a sample, determined to ensure that justice and truth would prevail for the young woman. Barnaby visited Connie Maxwell to express his condolences and ask about Sheila's final days. Connie revealed that Sheila had indeed located Frank under his new alias, Jack Arno, at the Marina Cordoba apartments. Armed with this knowledge, Barnaby paid a visit to Jack's residence. When Barnaby confronted Jack Arno, the salesman tried to downplay his connection to both Laura and Sheila. He painted himself as a simple man who avoided commitment, claiming that Laura had amplified a minor romance in her own mind. He expressed shock at the news of Sheila's passing, maintaining an air of casual indifference. But Barnaby was patient, noting the curious coincidences that seemed to follow the man wherever he went. The climax of the story approached as Jack tried to finalize a plan involving Norlam Pharmaceuticals. He falsely claimed to, and that he was an undercover narcotics officer, spinning a tale of an imminent robbery to gain her cooperation and secure her silence. He convinced her that someone inside her company was involved, playing on her loyalty and trust. On the decisive evening, Anne remained late at the office, her heart heavy with concern for Jack's safety. As the main alarms were being secured by the guards, Pete and Ted, Barnaby Jones arrived to speak with her. He gently laid out the truth, explaining the pattern connecting Jack Arno to the unfortunate events of the past. Anne was stunned, struggling to reconcile the charming man she knew with the picture Barnaby presented. Suddenly, the security dynamic shifted. Jack and his associates, realizing their plan was compromised, attempted to make their move. But Barnaby's foresight and the arrival of the police turned the tide. The trap was sprung, and Jack Arno's intricate schemes came to an end. With the truth revealed, a sense of relief and closure washed over everyone involved. Laura's sister could finally find peace, knowing the true circumstances of her sister's journey. And Hobson, though shaken by the deception, stood strong, surrounded by the supportive presence of those who cared for justice. Barnaby Jones shared a light-hearted moment with his associates, bringing a touch of warmth and humor to the conclusion of a challenging case, reminding everyone that honesty, integrity, and human values would always light the way forward.